Hi, it's Graham from Compiler again with a video about the benefits of webinars. There are many good reasons to use webinars for your business, so let's get started. The first question that we need to answer is, what is a webinar? You may or may not have heard of webinars. They are increasing in popularity all of the time. They are basically web seminars. With a seminar, a number of people will gather at a physical location and listen and interact with a number of presenters. A webinar is the same except that it is an online event. With a webinar, the presenters and attendees are all online. The attendees will register for the event using their email address, and they will be notified about how to join the webinar using a special link. It is usually permissible to join the webinar using a telephone as well, but most people will use the internet. Webinars allow the use of multimedia. The webinar presenters can switch from one form of media to another. For example, the presenter may use a slide presentation to explain the concepts and then switch to a web browser to demonstrate something. It is always better to use the internet rather than the telephone, as webinars are audio and visual. Like an offline seminar, your attendees will be able to see what you are presenting and hear your voice. It is normal for the attendees to be muted while the presentation is being performed to avoid unnecessary interruptions. Later questions can be asked by attendees because webinars are interactive. It is possible for attendees to ask questions either by unmuting them, and they will use a microphone plugged into their computer, or they can use what is known as a chat box to type their questions. It is also possible to run polls requesting the opinions of the attendees and then feedback the results. A great thing about webinars is that they will work worldwide. There are no physical location barriers with webinars. Presenters and attendees can be anywhere in the world as long as they have access to the internet. There is no need for expensive travel, and you can literally sit in your pajamas and attend a webinar. So how can webinars be useful for your business? Let's have a look at how to use webinars. More and more businesses across the world are using webinars for promotion and other activities. Here we will look at the best ways to use webinars, starting with sales. A lot of webinars are used to sell a product or a service. Potential customers are invited to a free webinar, and then they are presented with the reasons that they should buy something. The technique is very effective in most cases. Another reason for using webinars is training. You can run training webinars which can be recorded and teach people how to use your products, etc. This works really well as people can ask questions and become expert users of your product. Once the webinar is recorded, it can be placed on your website for people to learn from. Then we have lead generation. This is different from sales, as the aim here is to generate interest for your idea and ask people to commit by supplying their contact details, usually their name and email address. The leads gathered from these types of webinars are then followed up and hopefully converted into sales. To get the most out of a webinar, you must have a targeted audience. You do not want to have a webinar full of disinterested people. It will not matter how good your presentation is. If the subject matter is not up their street, then they will quickly leave. This is just common sense. You need to target your attendees for the best results. You can also use webinars to create partnerships. A webinar does not have to have hundreds of attendees. It can be a small gathering of like-minded people. For example, if you're looking to export your products to certain countries, then you could invite representatives of companies in those countries to attend your webinar with a view to becoming a partner. You can also use webinars to make announcements. Webinars can be very useful for making announcements to large numbers of people. This could be the upcoming launch of a new product or service, changes to existing products and services, and so on. Again, it would be a good idea to record the webinar so that people that missed it can view the replay from your website. If you are the host of a webinar, then you will be held in great esteem. Let's have a look at webinar advantages. By running a webinar, you will be providing value to the attendees and they will want to reciprocate. This starts with free training. One of the biggest secrets to success with webinars is to provide free training to the attendees. You can show them that by using your training, they will gain more customers, save money, etc. If they want more enhanced training, then they will need to buy your special course on the subject. Another advantage of webinars is that they are popular. People like attending webinars. They think they will gain some knowledge by watching and listening to your presentation, so make sure that they do. If people like your first webinar, they will certainly attend future webinars that you announce. They are very likely to become customers of your products and services as well. When you run a webinar, you will be perceived as having expert status. Experts are always sought after in any business. Your credibility and trust factor will be greatly enhanced by running a webinar and answering questions. You do not have to run the webinar alone. You can have your technical and sales support people there too. Another great advantage of webinars is that they are global. All businesses should be looking to expand their customer base in other countries. You can reach out to prospective customers in those countries with a webinar. You need to take into consideration time zones and language differences, of course. The thing is that these days, English is an international language, and it's likely that you could run a global seminar in English without too much trouble. The thing is with webinars is that they are easy to organize. There are no hotel conference rooms to book, no refreshments to provide, and no seating plans to manage. All you need to do is prepare your presentation, invite your attendees, and use the webinar software to run everything. It is much easier than physical events, which leads on to the fact that putting on a webinar is low cost. To use most webinar software, you will have to pay a small fee, which we will cover later. This is the only cost. If you compare this with running a live event at a major city conference facility, then this is no contest. Also, you are likely to get more attendees as there is no cost for them. In order for your webinar to be a success, you need to spend time on the preparation. So let's have a look at webinar planning. It is not advisable to send out invitations to a webinar and then just wing it. Unless you are very talented, this will be a disaster, so you must plan. You need to plan your presentation so that it's not too long and only provides certain information to the attendees. It's a very good idea to rehearse your presentation and time it. Also, if you can provide demonstrations, then do this, as it will break it up nicely. Looking at a load of slides for an hour can be pretty boring for the attendees. Remember that you want to provide a good experience for the attendees by giving free content. Show them your product or service in action. Teach them something that they are unlikely to know and can use in their business for free. People do not attend webinars to buy something. They attend them to learn something useful. They have traded their time to attend your webinar, so make it worth their while. Even more important than the content of your webinar is that you invite a targeted audience. If your business sells model steam trains and you invite people whose prime hobby is fishing, the results will be disastrous. You need to spend a lot of time before the event identifying and inviting people that will be interested in the subject matter. If this seems obvious, then you're right, it is. But I have been invited to webinars before and quickly left as they did not interest me. You also need to consider the right time. Timing is very important. If you're running a webinar just for UK people, then you need to think about the best time to do this. If it is aimed at busy executives, then the evening could be a good choice. If your webinar is targeted at the Australian market, then you may have to conduct this in the middle of the night. Treat your attendees like customers. Arrange the best time to suit them and not you. You always need to plan for interaction. A webinar without interaction is just a preaching session. Nobody likes to be preached to. You want your attendees to participate as much as possible. You can offer an incentive to attendees to stay by offering a cash prize to the first person to answer a question about what you have presented. You can use interactive polls where attendees provide their opinions. You must have a question and answer session as well. This can be at the end. Interaction must be provided and managed. At the end of your presentation, you can make a related offer. You've provided something useful to your attendees which they can implement and benefit from. The next step is to make them an offer which will take them far beyond what they have already learned. This could be in the form of a training course, a special membership, personal consultation, etc. In order to run your webinar, you will need to use special software. We will now take a look at webinar platforms. With the rising popularity of webinars, many companies have entered the market providing platforms that can be used. We will look at the top ones here, starting with GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar is the most popular webinar platform. You can host webinars with up to 1,000 people. They have some of the best features and facilities, and you pay by the number of attendees. There is a monthly or yearly payment option, and they also provide a 30-day free trial. Next we have ClickWebinar. Like GoToWebinar, they will support up to 1,000 attendees. They offer similar features too, but not as comprehensive as GoToWebinar. Again, monthly and yearly payments are available, and a 30-day free trial is also on offer. Now we will look at Adobe Connect. Adobe are a big company, and their webinar platform is best suited to training delivery. They have a whole host of features, and the prices are very reasonable. There are monthly and yearly payment options and a limited 30-day trial. Then we have Cisco WebEx. Another huge company, Cisco, offer a very good webinar platform. It has a host of features and some that the others do not have, such as encryption. They offer a monthly payment solution and a free package for up to 3 people in a meeting. Let's now look at Omnovia. Omnovia have been improving their webinar platform over the years. They can provide a webinar platform for up to 5,000 attendees. The platform has a lot of good features, and the pricing is okay. Monthly pricing plans based on the number of attendees and a 20-day free trial are available. And finally we have Google Hangouts. Google is slowly taking over the world, and they have a webinar platform known as Google Hangouts. The great thing about this platform is that it is totally free and can host an unlimited number of attendees. Google services are normally high quality, and Hangouts offer a lot of features, and Google is committed to adding more. This is well worth thinking about. Well, we have come to the end of this video about webinars. I hope that you found it informative and entertaining. In the next video, we'll be discussing the benefits of e-commerce. So see you then.